So in this tutorial, you'll learn how to animate in Toon Boom, even if you've never opened the program before. So now that we know how to draw in Toon Boom, let's learn how to animate. To add a layer, we need to do a drawing layer, which is this button right here. And you just click on it once, and it'll give you a couple options, whether you want it to be a vector or a bitmap. So that's like the difference between Flash for the vector or Illustrator, or bitmap as in like Photoshop or something. So I usually just do vector. It's a little bit easier to start out with and easier to work with. And we'll call this stick, because that'll be our character. And then we add and close, and we have our stick layer. So once we have our layer created, let's draw our first frame. We're going to do a simple walk cycle. So the way I like to do a walk cycle is start with what's called the contact position, which is where his foot contacts the ground like so. And on this position, he'll have his arms out like this. And then to draw the next frame, just go one frame forward, or you can use the period key and the comma key to go back and forward one frame. And to see the last frame that we drew, which is really important in animation, we have to turn on the onion skin, and we can see what our last drawing was. So with the onion skin on, it makes it easier to see what our next drawing needs to be. And we'll continue to animate using the onion skin, drawing each frame. And if you want to adjust how far back you want to look, you can drag these handles to see further back or not as far back of your previous drawings. Alright, so I have one step of his walk cycle ready to go. So here's something about frame-by-frame animation in Toon Boom that confused the heck out of me when I was first starting. I want to copy this first frame and paste it on the end of this walk cycle. So I go down here and press Ctrl-C to copy the frame, or I can right-click and say copy cells from the timeline. And I want to paste it here, so I press Ctrl-V. And it pastes that same frame, right? But let's say I wanted to edit something on here. So I'll just draw a red X just to show that I'm drawing on this last frame right here. But when I go back, you'll see that red X appears on the first frame as well. So the way Toon Boom works is if you copy a frame and paste it, it's a duplicate of that frame. It's not its own separate drawing. So if I did want to edit this drawing, what I would need to do is right-click it and go to Drawings, Duplicate Drawings, or Alt-Shift-D. Alt-Shift-D is probably the most important hotkey to learn in Toon Boom. You'll be using it a lot, so have it memorized. So when I press Alt-Shift-D on this frame, and then I draw a red X again, you'll see if I go back to my first frame, the red X is not there. These two are now separate drawings. So let's say also I want to hold on this frame so it doesn't disappear at the end. What I would need to do is extend the exposure. And exposure is just how long a drawing stays on the frame for. So I can right click over here and go to extend exposure, or the hotkey of F5, and that'll hold my drawing for as long as I selected. And if I wanted to use this same artwork but do like a different frame, like let's say I wanted to draw that red X again, if I go to frame 20 and draw a red X, it doesn't do it on frame 20, it just does it on that drawing. So what I would need to do is set up another drawing that happens at frame 20, again using that hotkey of Alt-Shift-D. And you'll see in our timeline a little line appears because this is now a new drawing. Even though it's the same artwork, I can now draw that red X and it'll appear on frame 20. So anyways, back to our walk cycle. Let's say we want this to loop. Right now it's just one step. Not super useful for a walk cycle, right? So what we need to do is select all these frames by selecting the first one, holding Shift and selecting the last one, right-clicking and going to Create Cycle. And we want to insert the number of cycles that we want. So I'll just do 10 for now and press OK. And we now have a looping cycle of his walk. But he kind of stays in place, right? Not a very effective walk if he just stays in one place. So we need to move him across the screen. So the way Toon Boom works is the difference between drawings, which you can think of as your animation frames. That's a drawing. And to move it across, we need to attach a peg. And the peg can move our drawing around on the screen. So to add a peg to our drawing, we use this button right here, Add a Peg. And you'll see it'll name it after the layer it's attached to. So pay attention to how I animate him from one side of the screen to the other. I'm going to go over here to the Add Keyframe, button and I'll add a keyframe, and you'll see a circle appear on frame 1 where I added the keyframe. Then I'm going to go to my transform tool, so I need to make sure that my animate button is turned on, and the animate button is this little stick figure button right here. And what that just means is it'll listen to whenever you move this peg or anything around. So on my first frame where I've created the keyframe, I'll use my transform tool and I'll move him off screen here. Then I'll go down to frame 60 using the add keyframe button. I'll add another keyframe, and then again, because this animate button is on, when I move him over to here on frame 60 where this keyframe is, he animates across the screen because the peg is moving our drawing cycle. Pretty cool.